Sure, the numbers are really important as well, but when you have the brand awareness, it will eventually convert into dollars. So it was a really big focus on that, especially for podcasts. And something that I prioritize is authenticity. Knowing that there's an authentic, true endorsement behind the product and that people actually use and like it is really important to the brand. And in turn now, and what I've learned is really important to me to be sure that people really love the product and they're not trying to sell something that they don't actually use and like.
Welcome to Long Run Labs, a weekly podcast from the team behind For the Long Run podcast, telling the stories of those running the outdoor industry where endurance and entrepreneurship meet. Quick word about the huddle before we get into today's episode. If you're building a business, you already know how isolating it can get. You're making decisions daily that most people in your life don't fully understand. And the surface level networking stuff, it rarely helps. You walk out of those rooms with a stack of business cards and none of the clarity you actually needed. What my co-founders Jason Fitzgerald, Ross Yellen, and I are building at The Huddle is different. It's a peer advisory community built for early stage founders who want real accountability and real conversation. You get placed in a small cohort of people across different industries who actually have decision-making authority in their businesses. You meet monthly, you workshop each other's problems, and you build the kind of relationships where someone will tell you the thing you needed to hear, not just what sounds good. There are in-person sessions here in Boulder and virtual cohorts open to founders anywhere in the country. The three of us started The Huddle because we wanted this and it didn't exist. If you're at a point where going at it alone isn't working, or you're ready to level things up in your business, go to findmyhuddle.com and fill out the application. Link in the show notes, and we'll be in touch from there. And welcome back to Long Run Labs. We have Hannah Sedgwick Shin joining on the podcast today from LA for a conversation that I've been dying to have for years, and she just keeps racking up interesting work experiences. So it's been worth the wait. Hannah, thanks so much for taking some time to chat.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan. Great to be here.
Of course, as you know, the first question is a hard one. And the question is, who is Hannah?
See, I knew this was coming. As a longtime listener, specifically while I'm running, I knew this was coming. So Hannah's a runner. She is a attendant roommate to two foster failed cats. She is a brand marketer, sports marketer in the running industry. She's professionally amateur marathoner is how I generally like to define myself. I take my amateur running very seriously in terms of commitment, but not in terms of being serious or taking myself too seriously. She's also a beginner potter and a rhinestone artist. So that's a pretty good summary of who Hannah is.
What is the professionally amateur mean? How is that manifested?
Definitely. So, like I said, I take my amateur running. I'm very committed to it. I am a very scheduled person and I'm a routine person. So I like to think I train like a pro, but I don't actually, have the times, and I'm not a professional athlete. I am a very amateur athlete, but I do take it very seriously in terms of getting my running in and having a race schedule and having a coach. So I like to think of myself as having that professional mindset when it comes to amateur running.
Amazing. I feel like I relate to that titling is exactly how
right?
I'm out there hobby jogging 60 miles a week and
Precisely.
taking it seriously, but not, I'm quite Boulder average, to say the least.
Yes. It's everything without the times or the accolades.
Yeah. I was running this morning with three friends, and we were running just behind Hans Troyer, Justin Grunwald, and John Ray. And we caught them nearly. And I was like, what is going on with these guys? Because we should not be. But they stopped and they were taking selfies and stuff as they climbed. But as they were actually running, I was like, we're never going to catch them. So yes, Boulder average, very professional amateur as well.
I like that.
You have a fascinating LinkedIn. Your title is, or your about me is sports marketing at ASICS, sports entertainment, CPG, athlete and creator partnerships, PR and community, professionally amateur marathoner. There you go. Goodr, Nat Geo, Animal Planet alum.
Yes.
So You were at Goodr for 5 years,
5.5 years. Yeah.
5.5 years, and then now you're at ASICS.
Yes.
Goodr is a brand that just crushes brand marketing and is really fun in the space, and is they drive experience and they drive business through the brand experience. I want to hear a lot more about what drew you to that brand, and what drew you to sports marketing more broadly.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, my background is initially in public relations and strategic communication. Like, that is what I studied in school. And for a while at Nat Geo and at a PR agency, I was a standard publicist or account executive. So, I was calling people, pitching. I had like really interesting clients, but had nothing to do with sport outside of a little bit at National Geographic. So I was working at an agency in Washington, D.C., and I knew that we were going to try to move out to LA. So I started thinking of cool companies that were based in Los Angeles. And I had really gotten into running, and I had run my first marathon in late 2019. And a friend of mine, I was on our way to Snow Globe, which is a November Project event in Syracuse. And she said, "Oh, I think Goodr is in Los Angeles. Like, you should see if there's a role there." And there was. So I applied, and long story short, ended up moving to Los Angeles to work for Goodr. And I had wanted to work in sport because that's something I've always been really passionate about, specifically running. And I had never really entertained it as a career until the Goodr opportunity came about. So I learned a lot really fast. And at a company like Goodr, you do learn a lot quite quickly. And it was a really cool experience to have that be my foray into sports marketing and brand marketing, especially coming into Goodr. The company was about 5 years old at the time. And I started 2 weeks before the COVID pandemic. So it really became a really interesting experience to get really scrappy and figure out how you do brand and sports marketing on the fly.
How do you do brand and sports marketing on the fly?
You have to get really creative. I describe it as scrappy. It's very much trying to make connections based on what you're seeing online. I do a lot of sliding into DMs, trying to make these connections happen. And at the time, we really gave people the opportunity to just like have fun and not be so serious as a brand, which Goodr has never been, but give people a fun outlet and try to make something out of nothing through brand partnerships, through social media, and through being really scrappy and trying to make those connections.
So I had a sponsorship with For the Long Run, my other
Yeah.
podcast, all about the mental side of sport and running from like 2021 through 23 or so. And it
Hmm.
was a fascinating relationship. It was managed through Taylor
Yes,
of Balance Media, who I'm due for catch up with, and he should probably have an episode on Long
you
Run
should.
Labs himself. But it was really interesting experience because he was like, we just need to directionally see some level of impact, and then
Mhm.
don't really care about coupon code conversions. Like
Mhm.
I don't like I want to see good stuff. Why and how was the brand able to take that positioning?
Definitely. It's definitely more of a brand awareness play. Like, that is huge. And while I was at Goodr, becoming a household name was something that was really important. Sure, the numbers are really important as well, but when you have the brand awareness, it will eventually convert into dollars. So it was a really big focus on that, especially for podcasts, and something that Goodr is really great about. And in turn, I prioritize is authenticity. Like, sure, I'm sure Taylor gave you a couple of talking points and said, please hit these points when you're talking about the brand. And as long as you hit those, you're good. And whatever stories you want to add into that to make it authentic to you, is fantastic. And knowing that there's an authentic, true endorsement behind the product and that people actually use and like it is really important to the brand. And in turn, now, and what I've learned is really important to me to be sure that people really love the product and they're not trying to sell something that they don't actually use and like.
Can you talk more about the evaluation of a partnership in the facilitation of different stages of the funnel, right? So for context, I work with a lot of brands in a partnership capacity, and many brands are like, we're only evaluating this based on coupon code conversion or post-purchase survey attribution, and we'll live or die by these metrics. And then others say, we really want to, as you were saying, we care about awareness and consideration. Like let our marketing process convert people. Just get us eyeballs, get us emails, and get people into the funnel. I think both have their place. I think the awareness and consideration partnerships are more fun because they don't require such a focus on like use this code now, otherwise I'm a failure.
Right.
So talk to me about like your thoughts on brand marketing, performance marketing, and how partnerships can address different stages of the funnel.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, there's always a healthy balance between the brand marketing and the performance marketing. So sometimes it's really about setting a goal when you go into a brand partnership and be like, what are we trying to get out of this? Is it conversion and creating new customers, or is it just trying to get people into the top of the funnel by the brand awareness side of things? So I think coming into a project in brand marketing or sports marketing with a specific goal in mind is huge. Someone at Goodr actually gave me some really great advice when I was first starting. And they said, it's okay to do a project because it's fun or because you think it would be cool. That's great. You just need to be really clear that that's why you're doing it, because you can't all the time have a project that I'm really passionate about because I think it's cool also convert. So there needs to be a healthy balance of projects that you're doing to convert people within the funnel or get people from entering that funnel into finally converting. So I think a healthy mix of both is always what I'm after.
So many of the conversations that I have with brands, I ask those questions, like, what is the purpose of this partnership? What are we trying to achieve here? And which up to two of the three stages of the funnel are we focused on? And often they'll be like, we want them all. Why is that? Why is that wrong? Or is that wrong? Trying to achieve all three stages in one partnership with one person?
Yeah, that's fascinating. I personally would prefer to focus on, as you said, 1 to 2 parts of the marketing funnel. And I think focusing all three kind of waters down your messaging because you can't always talk to everyone. You're not going to make everyone happy all the time in terms of potential customers or existing customers. And you really have to break down who you're speaking to. Like, who is the for the long run audience? Who are they? Where are they in the funnel? And how can you specifically talk to those people? And you're never going to make everyone happy. So I think dialing that in and focusing on what the message is and who you're talking to is really important.
What role does in IRL, in person experiences play, particularly coming out of, you walked into Goodr, February of 2020, you can't really do anything in person. Although I was in LA March of 2020. So that was
For the
fun.
marathon?
No, it was I was in Utah the week before for a triathlon camp. And then I came out to Santa Monica for an event with Mike Wardian, and then we were going to go do another triathlon camp the weekend that like the world shut down. And so I just remember being in REI watching the shelves get restocked, and within like 30 seconds of the shelves being restocked, they were like totally pillaged. But like we were at this group run that Mike Wardian did with, I think, Nathan. And we were like, well, should we be hugging each other? Should we be touching like what's going on here? And we definitely shouldn't have been. But fast forward six years now, which is crazy. What role does the in-person component have?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely huge. And like I said, a healthy balance of all things is going to be really important. So now that in-person events are very much back, it's massive to have those as a part of your marketing strategy because especially at Goodr and now at ASICS, I think there's so much value to actually touching a product and at Goodr putting a product on your face and really understanding it in person. And at ASICS, putting a shoe on your foot and trying it out and seeing if it works for you or not is something that you can't always get. And you're getting a group of people who are going to be interested in your product. In addition to that, it's really the community building behind it, which I know has been a huge part of the running world for a couple of years now, but is continuing to increase. Having spaces for running communities supported by brands has become increasingly overwhelmingly important to Goodr, to ASICS, and trying to get all those people in one spot in order to have a genuine and authentic experience and try to support from the brand side, support the running community is so cool, so fun, and something that I'm really passionate about and have been lucky enough to have the opportunity to do to pull people together in person.
A lot of the commentary that I've seen on threads recently is like every group run is monetized. Every
Hmm.
runner is working with a brand partner, and so it's the kind of thing that like if this becomes table stakes, does it still hold value, or is the fact that like it's everywhere mean a signal that it's like it's working and there's a reason that it's happening? There's a reason that every Tuesday evening group run has a 3 brand partners associated with it. What are your thoughts on the like alignment of run groups not associated with major marathons or not major marathons, but just like a weekly run group having a brand partner? What's your take on something like that?
For sure. Yeah, I think if it's authentic to the club and to that community, then whatever works for that specific club is fantastic.
So you said like if it's working, then that's great. So look at like a
Hmm.
like Cadence in New York
Yeah.
with Bandit and things like that, and the way that that brand has been able to grow. It seems like it's an authentic and organic relationship. What has to
Mhm.
be true for that to work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the run club leaders are going to know their audience the best. They're going to know what's going to resonate with them and what they're actually going to find authentic and helpful and providing some sort of value to the club. So for the bandits and the cadences of the world, they've found their people and are able to support those clubs. But then there's also clubs that like you said, don't have any corporate sponsors. Like, for example, I co lead November Project West LA, which currently has no corporate sponsors. And we run it very grassroots and it's a small crew, but we know best in terms of what our members are going to want and what's going to resonate with them. So I think authenticity and having something organic that makes sense and is going to provide actual benefit is the way to go.
Yeah, I think back to the like I joined November Project in 2013, and at the time there were no corporate
Mhm.
partners. They worked with originally the North Face and then Brooks.
Yep.
I think Goodr was involved in some capacity, and those two big shoe brands had a pretty sizable financial investment
Yes.
that kind of made it all possible for a number of years. And it was really cool to see the like again the grassroots but quite tribal influence. Like everyone wore North Face in those years, or everyone was wearing Brooks in those years, and Des Linden was involved, and all these people that were like part of the brand, or the North Face athletes were showing up to the annual summits, and Tim Olson was running with us, and stuff like Patty was a North Face athlete, things like that.
Mhm.
Why does something like that work? How do you build the authenticity into the DNA of, or how what has to be true for it to be authentic and embedded in the DNA of a group?
Yeah, I mean, I love when it kind of comes up naturally, right? Like, sure, you see a lot of people wearing North Face, and then North Face is able to come on as a sponsor because you already have the data to back that, and you're providing a true benefit to the club. But I also see that sort of trending in the same way as like the grassroots run club rise, right? Like in the rise of something like November Project that was started online and alongside the rise of Instagram and alongside the rise of having a corporate sponsor or brand sponsor for your run club. I think we see less of that now. I think we see a lot of people who will pick and choose their brands from head to toe, and they're not always committed to one shoe brand or one apparel brand, and they'll pick and choose what works best for them. So it's great when a brand can step in and provide something like a discount or something for the club and its members. But I don't think we see necessarily that an entire club will convert solely to a singular brand anymore, because there are so many brands, like you said, out here doing this and
Right.
supporting run clubs. And you'll show up to a group run that has 3 sponsors sometimes.
So I want to talk more about the athlete and creator world, but I want to dive first into your role at ASICS. So your title is Manager of Sports Marketing. What is your day-to-day? What are you measured on a regular basis?
Yeah, so I am still fairly new to ASICS. I have been there a little over 2 months on the ASICS America sports marketing team. And it's a smaller, pretty scrappy team. And within the larger function of marketing at ASICS. So I was brought on initially to do wrestling and volleyball. So the core performance sports of ASICS, essentially the things that are not performance running related. But I see so much overlap in terms of what you learn in running can apply to other sports as well. And I haven't just done sports marketing for running. I've done it for a host of other sports too. So the day to day lately has been looking like a lot of event planning. I just got back from Indian Wells to do ASICS House of Tennis around that tournament. LA Marathon was this past weekend. So supporting the LA 100, which were 100 women that ASICS had run the LA Marathon on International Women's Day, and gave them a really VIP experience for the weekend with Megan Murray of Believe in the Run and Megan Featherston from Featherston Nutrition. So having a lot of event planning right now. It's a lot of planning in terms of strategy too, in terms of volleyball as we head towards LA 28. And that has what it's been a lot of recently is a healthy mix of planning and execution for events, athletes, seeding product.
What's firing you up on a day-to-day basis? What brought you to the brand?
Yeah. So I am a long time fan of ASICS. I've been wearing ASICS since high school and have since, of course, now been wearing ASICS Metaspeeds for various marathons. And I'm such a fan of the brand. So that was what drew me to it initially, is I'm a consumer of the product first and foremost. So I was super excited to join because I love doing more in emerging sports like wrestling and volleyball. And what's really firing me up right now is definitely the lead in towards LA 28. And so many brands, every apparel and every athletic brand is thinking about this right now. So being able to really eventually get in the weeds and plan something for LA 28 that's for the athletes, for the consumers, for the athletes' families, even for ASICS employees. So to work with the team on LA 28 is, of course, super exciting. And every brand is working on that right now and is trying to lock everything down.
So I went to the Olympics in 2014 on behalf of a brand, and we didn't really do activations. We had a handful of athletes we were working with, but managing the communications and like what we were planning to do for an event in Russia versus an event in the US and like in your literal hometown
Yes.
must be meaningfully different. Talk to me about the opportunity for US based brands. I know ASICS is based in Asia, but you have an LA office. What's the opportunity for US based brands ahead of LA 2028, and how should brands be thinking about something like this with so many eyeballs, no more than 3 time zones away?
Right. Yeah, it's so exciting. And I think what's going to be the case and how brands are thinking about it is very much a 360 view, because you could just think about the athletes. Like, that is what the Olympics is all about, is the athletes and their performance. But then you add in the millions of people who are going to come to Los Angeles who love sport, most likely. If otherwise, why would they travel to the
Probably, yeah.
Olympics? Yeah,
They love
probably.
hosting.
Yes, they love hosting. So then you have all of these fans all in one location, which is obviously a massive opportunity. Then you have the athletes' families, their support system, the people who got them to this global stage, and you want to support them from a brand perspective as well. And then, of course, you have the employees of the brands who are also going to likely be in the city attending events. So really thinking about, how are you catering to all of those people? And what does your strategy look like? And how are you going to stand out in a sea of lots of brands doing very similar things? And how are you differentiating yourself? So that has definitely been like the biggest question that I've had, is how are you going to stand out? And how are you going to cater to all these different people who have different needs, but ultimately you want them to have a really great brand experience when they come to the Olympics.
And what is a brand like ASICS looking to do? They're not looking to sell shoes, for the 3 weeks in the summer. Like, what's a win for a brand like that?
I'd say my win for LA 28 is going to be brand awareness for sure. It's definitely a massive brand awareness play, plus really catering to your athletes, making them feel really special and celebrating this massive accomplishment with them. So again, it's back to the authenticity and like really caring about them as people. First and foremost, like, it's not about selling shoes. It's really about giving people a really great experience.
Yeah, so much of this has become about like the hospitality and
Mhm.
differentiating as a brand of like giving a shit about people and supporting them when they need it most. Like I
Yeah.
did a podcast yesterday with Kyle Siegel of Raid, and he was talking about his work with Anna Gibson and how he made a custom schemo vest for her that was shipped to Jackson, but she had left the day prior, and it went to the wrong address in
Oh,
Jackson. She was already in Italy. And so somebody from Jackson, like one of his customers from Jackson, drove it to Boulder. And then one of his employees from Boulder flew it to Italy. And Anna was like deep in the mountains of Italy. And it was hand delivered to her. And then she came in fourth, I think, in Schemo. That is an example of a brand taking care of the athlete. Like, they have this thing that they've trained in, that they've gotten used to, that they've felt comfortable with, and then they need it at the biggest moment of their career, and the brand is able to come through. And that's the storytelling that they get from, I don't know, the several $1,000s of investment to fly someone over to deliver it is probably worth it in the long run.
absolutely. Yeah, it goes back to, right, athlete servicing, and you're sponsoring athletes, but also how are you catering to them, and how are you being sure that they have everything that they need and that they feel welcome as part of a brand, whatever brand it may be, and that they have everything that they need in order to perform. That's one of my favorite parts of the job as well, is like really figuring out what the athletes need and how a brand can support them in terms of performance, but also just as people.
You have athlete and creator partnerships in your title in on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Why is it important enough for you to put it in prime real estate like that specific category of marketing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've been thinking a lot about this lately, and it's interesting because definitely see a trend. And in the last couple of years, this has very much been true. Sure, you have a standard athlete sponsorship, like a athlete signs a contract and they are expected to perform. But then the trend that has been happening the last couple of years, if not longer, has been treating athletes more like creators, more and more so. And there's this expectation that athletes also need to be able to make a great Instagram reel and have great content and get those engagement numbers on social to make a meaningful difference with their audience. So it hasn't just been about times. It's been very much also about like your Instagram engagement, and brands are for sure looking at that. And that has become a bigger and bigger part of the sports industry, and the running industry has been athletes as creators, but they really have to do both roles and perform, but also they have these high expectations to create also.
If you're enjoying Long Run Labs, we'd love it if you took a moment to leave a review. It only takes a minute, but it helps the show reach more people like you. If an episode has helped you think differently about your business or career, made a long run fly by, or taught you something new, scroll down in your podcast app and tap those stars and write a review. Thank you for your support. This episode is brought to you by Popfly. If you're a brand trying to reach outdoor, travel, and adventure audiences, Popfly is where you should be running your creator program. It connects you with the largest community of adventure creators on the planet, people who actually use the gear, live the lifestyle, and have built real trust with their audiences. Popfly handles the whole operation. Affiliate links, discount codes, creator and ambassador collaborations, all in one place. No more chasing people down over email. You scale brand momentum, track what's actually working, and every mention comes from a place of credibility because the creators you're working with genuinely mean it. Go to popfly.com to check it out, and if you want to reach out to them, let them know that we sent you. Are we going to get to a point where the brands are contributing real dollars so that athletes can produce content? We're still seemingly in a space where the athletes that can do it themselves or can pay someone to do it are currently winning. Like I look at Colleen Quigley, for example. She's very good at creating content. She's very fast at creating content. And she's been able to create partnerships that are meaningful enough that she can pay somebody to help produce that, like what she's doing with Meridia. We worked with GoPro, and GoPro committed some dollars to help produce content for the team. Wasn't a massive windfall, but it offsets some of that cost to make it possible. Where do you think that's trending? Like, should athletes be asking for media allowances in their contracts?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'm not 100% sure on where the future heads on this either. In my experience, it's been really figuring out how you can help your athletes and support your athletes in terms of them being creators. So I've done a lot of different athlete partnerships that also involve like sending a shot list of exactly what the brand is looking for, because then it's easier for the athlete, it's easier for the brand, but also, of course, leaving a lot of room for them to be creative and them to be authentic in their own content, because they're going to know what is going to resonate with their audience best. So it's really been, from the brand side, figuring out how you can assist the athletes in creating content that where you're not going to have to go back and forth for a couple of weeks to create something, because speed is really important in this as well. So on my side has been really assisting the athletes and helping them through the process of creating something that's going to work on both ends for a collab post, for example.
Does AI play a role in this at all?
Oh, I honestly haven't done a lot with AI and creator athlete partnerships yet, but I think it definitely does. In terms of a shot list or a rough script, I think it absolutely plays a role in that, in helping make things faster and make things more efficient, and asking AI what is going to resonate with your audience and using those insights with, of course, a grain of salt, but absolutely that is definitely going to come into play.
What role do creators and influencers have?
Massive. I mean, increasing more and more and more, because I think the old school way of sports marketing and marketing in the running industry was the brands were the tastemakers and they were pumping out the product, and it was very much like top down, and here is what we are offering in this collection. And then the pros would wear it and that would trickle down to the everyday professionally amateur runners like ourselves. But now I think you see a lot of that coming from the middle of the running world. And anyone could be a running influencer if they have that know-how and the dedication to it. So it definitely plays a massive role in terms of influencing different trends and at some points, right, driving conversion if that's one of the goals that you have as a brand in working with a creator or an influencer. So it's been really interesting to see. And I think I would assume that the running influencers and creators in the middle have a ton to do with the rise in popularity of running as a sport and running marathons and the increase in people wanting to be involved.
Right. It's like so easy for people to be like, oh, I'm mad at influencers for taking spots in major marathons that are full,
Yes.
which is a completely ridiculous take.
Right.
If you zoom out and see, like, the intent is not to raise the profile of the Boston Marathon or New York City Marathon or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, these are going to sell out. London had 250,000, or New York had 250,000 applicants, and 1% got in. So it's like they're not driving awareness for the New York City Marathon. They're driving awareness for running. And the New York City Marathon is the vehicle. And the fact that it's like very topical and top of mind is why it's relevant and why people are getting those entries. You have dozens of people taking dozens of spots against 50,000 spots. So they're creating outsized impact in their ability to influence people to go for a run. Maybe not run the New York City Marathon, but like go out and run a 5K or go out and run their first 2 miles, kind of a thing. There is so much to be said for in 2026. So I went to this event that Popfly hosted, and Popfly is a new sponsor of this podcast. They're a creator and influencer management platform. Brands can go on there and distribute a brief and have 100 applicants or 1,000 applicants. They have 10,000 creators in the outdoor space that have access to these briefs, and they can apply for a paid or a gifted campaign. So I went to this event with Popfly that they hosted in Denver, and I met a bunch of creators that were there, and I looked some of them up afterwards, and they have like 1,000 followers or 2,000 followers or 5,000 followers. And like, I don't have a ton. I have 13,000 on my personal account. But like traditionally, you would think of a creator or an influencer more so as 50,000 or more. So I want to differentiate between creators and influencers. Creators are creating content, and for a program like Popfly, often not even posting the content. They're just delivering brands UGC videos that the brands can post on their own channels. So it's like, as long as you're a good creator, it doesn't matter that you have 17 followers or 17 million followers. To the point of like, anyone can do this now. Does it devalue the process or the potential for impact, or is it truly the fact that we have so many of these micro communities that these small creators are influencing, that if you can scale an effort in creator management, then it can be meaningful without needing to pay massive dollars to somebody with 200,000 followers?
Definitely. Yeah. I think I'm in the camp where you can have a really specific niche and you could scale that. Right. Like micro influencers, nano influencers, like people who have really engaged audiences and are creating content for either their audience or a brand that's really going to resonate with people, I think absolutely can scale. And I think there's so many people in the running world, especially, who are doing this right now. But I'm curious if there's a tipping point on it. I don't think there is, though.
You don't think so?
I don't know. I really don't know.
If everyone's out there trying to do it, does it water it down? Like, right? Like you go to a race and 50% of people are filming it.
Right. Yeah. And it just depends on, I guess, who are they making that content for? Like they could be making it for a brand, but they also could just be making it for themselves. Like I've made like little Instagram reels and things on my own account, and I do it because I think it's fun. I am not getting paid to do it, but I like having another goal in mind and something to think about while I'm running and trying to make content and that's going to turn into, a post for my 600 followers. um, but yeah, I think to your point, there is likely a tipping point at some point, but I mean, we're seeing new niches pop up all the time, like the girl churning butter in her trail running vest, right? Haven't seen that before. That's new.
Meat
That's a new
influencers. I
opportunity.
follow a lot of like barbecue dudes who
Right.
just like smoke meat.
Yeah. It's wild. Yeah. And like, right. Okay. The girl who churns butter in her running vest. Then since then, I've seen people make ice cream in their running vests. Or
Can you explain what this is? I saw it yesterday and I laughed at it and didn't double click to see what the hell was actually going on.
Oh, yes. Okay. I want to say maybe a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, there was a girl and she put all of the ingredients that you need to churn butter into like a double sealed Ziploc bag. She put it in her pack and went on a trail run. And every couple of miles, she would check and be like, "Oh, has it turned into butter yet?" Just from the, up and down of running on a trail. And eventually she did get butter and she took it home and, washed it and had butter. And since then, right, people have made ice cream. Like people have texted that to me and been like, "You should do this." Like that's a niche I have never seen before. And is there an opportunity for a brand there? Like, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, Land O'Lakes needs to jump on that one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right?
Or what's the one? Kerrygold.
Yes. Or like Ellie is sponsored by Cabot.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Legendary sponsorships.
Right.
I've been pursuing Pioneer Pastures. They make milk. And so
right.
I think it's about the differentiation. Like there's so much vanilla content these days that you have to, there's just so much content, period. And some of it is interesting. Much of it is interesting. I work with a video editor and I'm like, the first 1.5 seconds must be captivating. Yep. Otherwise it's a total waste of effort. It's like crazy, but there's so much noise out there that you have to churn freaking butter on your trail run to be to catch people.
You do. Yeah. And I think it's great as a sport because that means like we're taking it far less seriously. Like if your goal is to go out and churn some butter on your trail run, like that's amazing. Like I love that. If other people start running and become interested in the sport because they wanted to churn butter or make ice cream in their trail pack, awesome. Like I love that. And I'm very much in the camp of I don't think you should take yourself too seriously. And if that's the goal and you set out to do something silly or do something for a bit, then go for it.
Talk to me about trust. I think trust is the component that is hardest to build and most valuable in the entirety of all of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of a influencer, creator, athlete partnership, or even a partnership with another brand or a race, like you really need to have that mutual trust, which as you said is hard to get. And you have to build that over time and over different projects and get used to how people work. But ultimately, you need to trust that the final product is going to be something that is a win-win for everyone. Like that's something that I am always talking about is like, how is this a win-win? How are we making this equal in terms of a partnership? And how do both parties come away with something really awesome that helps the goal on both sides? So building that trust and building really great working relationships is so important in marketing, in sports marketing, and especially like in the running industry, because as you know, the running industry is not massive. Like there are not a ton of us who are working in run specifically.
Everyone knows each other and everyone shows up to TRE.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like probably most people in the industry are at TRE or have been to a TRE. So it's not that big of an industry, which makes trust super important to have those relationships.
What's the DNA of a strong win-win relationship?
Definitely. So for me, it's again having those goals coming in and being like, what are you trying to get out of this? Because this is what we're trying to get out of it as a brand, and making sure those two things are aligned before you even start down the path of doing something together. So making sure your expectations are aligned, so that there's not any miscommunication or surprises there. So that is likely the biggest thing, is aligning at the start of a project. And then ultimately, it's being as authentic as you can to both sides. Like, a brand shouldn't force someone to do something that is inauthentic to themselves and the personal brand that they've built. And on the flip side of that, people shouldn't do things just because a brand asks them to do it. And finding that middle ground, which sometimes you need a compromise, but ultimately, like, having integrity on both sides is going to, again, build that trust and result in a win-win situation.
Speaking of integrity and trust and being real, 2026 has brought terrible things to a lot of people. Creators have opinions on things. They may or may not have expertise on every single topic, yet for some reason everyone's expecting everyone to have an opinion or weigh in on the latest, hot button topic. What's your take on the importance of like standing for something or only sticking to running content? Like, are we at a place where brands are expecting creators and athletes to take a stand, or is it still like too divisive, even if it seems like it's something that seems pretty seems pretty binary and, good versus bad?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I've seen that come up a lot as well. And I think from a brand side, it really depends on your brand's values and going back to your brand playbook and being like, is this something that we can comment on as a brand? Is a very interesting question. And of course, that like takes into account like your digital footprint as well. Like, going back and looking at what someone has posted is going to have an impact on their future sponsorships, for
Right.
example, and can have an impact on their livelihood. So I think from the brand side, of course, it really depends on if a brand can say something or not, and if that is like in their ethos.
What about on the creator side?
On the creator side, I am all about that there's like this intersectionality of running content with other content. And I think people should be allowed and encouraged to share their thoughts on other topics that are not running, because it all becomes so related. And having a take on that and being able to use your platform to say what you stand for, I think should only be encouraged.
Somebody said this to me. They're like, if you always stand for something, people won't be surprised when you take a stand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like really stuck with me that like,
Yeah.
I'm Jewish and I have a lot of opinions on what's going on in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
There was an attempted terrorist attack in Michigan yesterday, and it was a radicalized person who was trying to kill a bunch of children. And I spoke out against it because that's
Yeah.
fucking ridiculous. Like,
That's crazy.
that's like objectively wrong. Yet
Yes.
some people seem to believe that it can be justified. And so I've often taken a stand on things like that. And as you can hear, I just got myself riled up.
Yep.
And to me, it's like somebody also said something to the effect of, I was having a conversation with ChatGPT about making a post, and I'm blanking on what the topic was. It was something along the lines of like, I really needed to say something, and I was like, what's the risk of saying this? This was 6 weeks ago. I gave the line of from Martin Niemöller, who spoke out about the Holocaust, and it ends with, then they came for me and there was no one left to speak for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, this is a running account, but we're all complex humans swimming in multiple lanes and wearing different hats. Just stick to running is so last decade. Running isn't political, they say. Then why are my friends afraid to go for a run? We're living in a moment where every time we open our phones, we're confronted with violence, injustice, and human suffering. Running can be an escape from that. And for many of us, that's a privilege. I went another like paragraph on it. And so I went back and forth with ChatGPT on this to like, what is the risk of doing this? And it responded with something like, the risk is not posting it. The risk is building a career where you're silenced, essentially, or where you must be silenced in the things that matter to you. And I was like, damn, ChatGPT, like way to cut deep. And I posted it. And I think that's kind of the point, that like, I don't want to build a career. I don't want to build an online profile. I don't want to build a following where I'm afraid to say things that matter to me because I'll get canceled or unfollowed, or lose brand deals. Like if I lose a brand deal because they don't like something, then I'd rather lose the brand deal than be silenced.
And that's fine. Yeah.
And I think we're going to start seeing more of that. And I had Erin Bailey on the podcast of Momentum Management, and she talked about how like to join her agency, you have to take a stand for something because, as you said, there is so much intersectionality at this point. For like a global brand, and I don't want to put you on the spot to speak for ASICS, but like to speak for a global brand and a brand where there are such diverse voices, and you probably have customers all over the world, and they live in Asia and the Middle East and Africa and North America and all these different places. And people have different opinions and frameworks of values. Where do we go from here?
Right.
$1 million question. Very hard one.
Wow.
Sorry.
Yeah. I wish I knew. And right, while I don't speak for ASICS, I definitely think that during my time at Goodr, I learned a lot about how you need to really take everyone into account, and you can't cater to everyone all the time.
If you are for everyone, you're for no one.
Exactly. So, right, like I think I've always had a mindset, right? Like I am from the East Coast and I live in Los Angeles, but there are tons and tons of other people in this country who I have never been to that state, and I have never seen what their lives are like. And even something as simple as social media content and like having like a very like city perspective, for example, as simple as that, like you can't make everyone happy. And that's okay, to your point. Like if you say something and lose a brand deal, that is fine. Like that is probably a good thing, to have your content be authentic and understand that that's not for everyone and it can't be for everyone.
Yeah, and I think it's just about accepting that and understanding that you can't please everyone, particularly as an individual or a brand. And like at this point, it's like, if you say something, you'll be chastised. If you don't say something, you'll be chastised. And you just have to kind of stick to your values. And at the end of the day, like that's what matters. And if you can do it with integrity, great. But yeah, I think it's a really tough time to have a lot of people listening to you, or be a brand that people are expecting to say something.
Yeah, it's a huge responsibility across the board when you have people listening.
Do you have any hot takes on the running industry, the sports marketing space?
Ooh.
What's going through your head that you're dying to tell the community?
Oh my gosh. Jonathan, I thought you were going to ask this. So I actually thought about this yesterday. I was like, Jonathan might ask me for a hot take. And I actually wrote down some hot takes.
Amazing.
Let me just pull up my notes app. First, I think I've said it before in the last 53 minutes that we've been on, that you don't need to take yourself seriously at a race. Just because it's a race doesn't mean you have to take yourself seriously. And I think that is a revelation that I have had. This is silly. Do not recommend this. I ran 4 majors in 2024. Do not recommend.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot of running. I ran 4 majors, and
it's a lot of travel.
2 in the fall. A lot of travel, with which this segues into my next hot take as well. And everyone's like, wow, you raced 4 majors in a year. I'm like, oh, well, I raced one. I put in one race effort. In Tokyo and Boston and New York, I ate snacks. I hugged people. I stopped. I pat dogs. I took photos. Like I did
Oh,
not.
you won the race.
I won the race in terms of fun. And that is
Yeah.
always my goal, is to have the most fun out of anyone. But I can lock in too. Like in Chicago, I decided that was my race effort. I'd run Chicago before and I was like, we're going to lock in and have a race effort day. And did not eat any snacks or pat any dogs during that race. But the other three I did. So I think we're amateur runners. We do this for fun. If you're not having fun, then like, what is the point? That's my main hot take. My other hot take. So I'm about to get my 6th star in London next month. And the World Marathon Majors, right, are very not controversial, but they can often be a hot take, right? Like, are they worth it, etc. A lot of discourse around it. And I do think, as someone who has run 5, like they absolutely are a money grab. To your point, like there's so much travel. Like you have to have an incredible amount of privilege, the time off, the support, the funding to be able to do something like this. And I don't think that the majors are like necessarily.
It's not realistic.
Yeah, like I get people want to do it and like I wanted to also, but like I've had a lot of luck and opportunity and
now we're adding Sydney and Shanghai and Cape Town.
Exactly. Like then what? The moon, like moon marathon, right? So those are maybe medium hot takes.
What's the hot take part of it? That it's overrated?
Yeah, I think it's overrated. Fair. I think as someone, right? Like I am about to get my 6th star and I'm like, I think this is overrated.
So why are you doing it?
Because I decided to put my name out into the universe and like put in some effort to try to make these things happen. I had a lot of opportunity just kind of pop up and come my way. And I felt like I had to say yes for the non-seriousness of it. For the bit.
I love it. For the bit. For the churning of butter across the world.
Exactly.
Hannah, this has been a blast. Was there anything else that you pre-prepared that we didn't get to that we should discuss?
Let me check my notes.
I love that you prepared the 2 hot takes. That's fantastic.
I had even more, but those are my 2 main hot takes. Okay, my dad said this a while ago, and I feel like it was really helpful for me. So I think it might be really helpful for other people as well. So when I was training for Race Effort Marathon, I really wanted to break a specific time. And I was like, I am putting my whole life into this. Again, amateur runner, putting their whole life and their whole like happiness, everything on this singular time. And my dad was like, this means nothing. Like in a good way, this means nothing. And he's a triathlete, and I grew up going to triathlons.
Which means even less. Triathlons mean even less.
Triathlons means even less. And he was like, okay, listen, Hannah, like if you don't break this time, what is going to happen? It's like you still have, your job, your friends, your cats, your husband, like people still like you, even if you don't break this time. And that like really has stuck with me because I think it segues into not taking yourself too seriously. And that's always been really helpful to like look at a marathon or look at a race as a victory lap and not as like the be all end all of your happiness and your worth.
2 things on this. One, I had the same realization when I went to CIM one year, and as I was leaving, I pet our dog and I said, when I come back, Alfie will not give a shit if I broke 3 hours or if I DNF, because all he will care about is that I'm back. I did not break 3 hours and I did not DNF. And he was thrilled when I came back.
Alfie was so happy to see you.
He was thrilled with, yes. But, and it's one thing to say that as an amateur runner. And then in 2020, I had a conversation with Scott Fauble, and he said almost literally the same thing. And he's a 208, 209 marathoner, I think 208, where he was competing to win these races. And maybe he was a 207. So Scott, if you're a 207 marathoner, I apologize. And he was like, if I go out and suck, my fiance will still love me. My parents will, like, all these things are still true. And so it really puts it into perspective, to your point. So appreciate
Absolutely.
that reminder and call out. Last question is, for somebody who wants to get involved or get into the running industry, what is your best guidance?
Ooh, I love that. I mean, like I've mentioned, with even trying to get into world marathon majors, it is kind of the same for job hunting in this industry as well. I think you just have to shoot your shot. And I think you need to figure out what brands align with your values and what is going to be interesting for you, and really just like put your resume out into the world. Try to connect with people in the running industry. I'd say largely the running industry, like, we are very nice, curious people who want to be helpful to other people, especially other runners. So my advice is just shooting your shot and seeing where it goes from there.
Amazing. I just fact checked myself. Scott Vobel is a 208.52 marathoner, but that's the point, right? He's a competitive marathoner. He was a competitive marathoner and like couldn't recall his time despite it being blazing fast. And that's not even the most interesting thing about him. There are plenty of other things that are way more interesting, which proves the point. I also did not realize that he ran the Boulder in 2003 at age 11 in a time of 42.50.
Wow.
What a cool, fun fact.
That is so cool. Wow. Yeah. So you can really trace those race results back.
Yeah. Hannah, this has been a blast. Appreciate all of your knowledge and insights and the work we got to do together at Goodr back in the day. And yeah, we'll hopefully share some miles at some point together.
Absolutely. I would love that. Thanks, Jonathan.
Of course. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Long Run Labs. If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's building something of their own. We'll be back next Tuesday with more stories at the intersection of endurance and entrepreneurship from the people shaping the outdoor industry in ways big and small. Until then, keep showing up, keep asking questions, and we'll see you out there.